Well, I'm really been looking forward to this. I've gotten to know Butch over the years, and we really developed a nice friendship. But I'm always impressed because you don't just say, "Ah, I think I'm going to open up an Honest One auto shop. Yeah, maybe, maybe not. I'll put my toe in the water." No, that's kind of a commitment. You jump in. So tell us a little bit about your journey. Oh, by the way, we have two rules, between the speakers. We start with these questions and the conversation goes where it goes, and we're supposed to have fun. So feel free to banter with us. Let's get to know Butch and let's make this a fun process. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you're at now.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you'd asked me in 2012 if I'd be owning and running an automotive shop, I would have said absolutely no way. Just did not see myself in this kind of business. But fate happens, and I ended up great ride in the pharmaceutical industry. Let me back up a minute because the Air Force was a phenomenal experience. And if you'd asked me 6 months before I got out of the Air Force if I was going to be pharmaceutical sales, I would have said no. So there's kind of a theme here, right? But what I found when I got out of the Air Force, Pfizer was looking to hire junior military officers. And it was a perfect fit. And what a phenomenal company to work for. And 25-year career in the pharma industry. My company that was with the last 12 years got taken private by one of the world's largest private equity firms. So if any of you guys have ever dealt with private equity, you know what that lifestyle is like. And I survived working for them in a director sales role for 5 years. But in the private equity world, we used to joke, or at least in this, we used to joke that there's a barcode right here on the back of your neck and with an expiration date. And you don't know, you can't read it, you don't know what it says, but you know it's there and it's coming. And at the end of the 2012, you get those 6 famous words that say we're going in a different direction. And that's what happened. So, initially my thought was stay in pharmaceuticals. That's what my experience has been. And really had no desire to move from Atlanta. And there's no really positions comparable to what I was doing in the Atlanta market. So a couple of interviews in Boston, up in New Jersey, and my heart wasn't in moving. 50 years old, we're just met Kimberly, we started dating. I don't like cold weather. Just a lot of those things play into it. And part of the outplacement process included working with a business coach, which was some of the best time I had spent. And if you're ever in this situation, and probably some of you have been, it's really worth following their process. So the business coach I worked with, I actually went through some, personality assessments. How much do you want to be involved in the business? Do you want to be an absentee owner? Are you hands-on? What's your skill set? What are you going to be good at? And we went through this process of looking at a bunch of different franchise opportunities or even businesses to buy. And presented 5, kind of narrowed this list of 30 down to about 5 that we did a deep dive on. An Honest One was one of them. And it's like, and some of them, like one of them was a printing company. And I'm the guy, I took drafting in high school, but I still couldn't draw a straight line with a ruler. It's like, that's probably not my skill set, and I've been in sales for 25 years, and you tend to be much more of a generalist and not necessarily that big detail-oriented guy when you're in sales. So we did a deep dive on a couple of them, and I was really intrigued by the concept at Honest One. So once I decided that this was a really good opportunity, I looked at a couple of other automotive franchises because I wanted to see what I was getting myself into. And, as luck would have it, we worked out a deal, and I ended up buying the franchise for Honest One Auto Care. Here we are, in our 8th year now.
Well, that's a great story. There are so many points you made that I could relate to, as particularly, you got a barcode back here. I had a colleague when I was at IBM said, "Brian, you got to be really clear. There's a target on your back." So you find yourself going down the hole like this, right? But that's fascinating, that process that you went through, because I know as I look around the room, knowing some of the people here and their journeys, they've had similar journeys. So how did the pandemic impact your business, and what did you do as a result?
Yeah, great question. It's hurt, like we're fortunate. We stayed open the whole time. We were deemed an essential business, so we've stayed open. But this time last year, if you looked at our sales for this week, it was comparable to what we did maybe the 3rd month we were open. It's just it was a cliff, and that's incredibly worrisome. when you see your revenues almost dry up, because I've got, payroll's by far my largest expense, and I've got employees, but you've got, you've got rent, insurance, all the expenses that go along with running a business. And you really don't want to have to liquidate what little assets you've built up to stay in business. So, we were very fortunate. We were able to access funds through the PPP program and the EIDL program. So, that gave us a safety net. Business started to come back up. I think there was initial shock and people quit spending money, and was really concerned about what was going to happen. Again, I think we're very fortunate that for the most part, our economy has stayed open. I've got some colleagues in other parts of the country that own Honest One Auto Cares. They've not had a similar experience, and I feel really bad for them. But we've, we were able to stay open. We ended up between 15 and 20% off for the year, which isn't that bad. What's really disappointing is both shops had a really nice double-digit growth trajectory coming out of 2019 into 2020. So if you think about what that gap is from going like this to sales going like that, and you just wonder, are we ever going to make it up? Do we ever recapture that revenue? We're still running a little bit off from where we were pre-pandemic, but we're having some conversation with people in the room earlier. Traffic is picking up, and that's good for our business. Cars are back out on the road. People are driving. I remember somebody telling me their car was getting 3 weeks to the gallon.
Yeah.
They're not going to need any repair work or maintenance. So, we're hopefully getting back to normal.
I think I only drove 4,000 miles last year. That was pretty amazing. But, I find that your story, I think about the leadership challenge you had, because, you're looking at, oh my gosh, the world's coming to an end with this pandemic. It's all gloom and doom, hide in your home. You can't come out. And, there's personal issues that you deal with in that process. But then you're a leader too.
Right.
You've got your employees, and they're wondering, how am I going to eat? Is my job going to be protected? And they have all their issues. I was taught one time, if your life is a mess, your business is a mess. Because whatever they're struggling with, they bring into the workplace. What leadership experiences and lessons did you have as a result of some of that? And did you have to pull from your past to make it work today?
I think I pulled some from what I learned early on in the military. There's a couple of adages that you go by in the military. One is lead by example, and don't ask your people to do something that you're not willing to do yourself, right? So, and what I've learned, and even in the corporate career, because, my pharmaceutical days in management, the companies have, ups and downs, and we had challenges all the time. And when you're a leader, people are watching you. People are watching you constantly, even when you think they're not watching, and you have to be really careful what message you're sending to your team. So what I tried to do with, with my team was pull everybody together and let's talk. Be completely transparent with them. I explained, where we're at, the financial situation, what the plans were with the business, what the what the ultimate recovery plans were if we didn't get government funding and all that. And, we didn't lose anybody as a result of that. So I think communication is key, but you got to realize people are watching you and how you react. And, even if things aren't going the best, you can't necessarily let them see it.
Exactly. That's an interesting challenge. And the same thing as a parent, when you've got kids at home, no matter what age, you're a leader.
Right.
And what you're illustrating there. So that's, I commend you for that. That's a great answer. So have you, I was in this experience once when we were opening up my first business. We signed the personal guarantees. We had all these investors lined up, and then none of them came through. Yeah. And it was a big dollar amount, let me tell you that. But you get your back against the wall and you get creative. You have to.
Yeah.
I have to make this work. Have you had a similar experience where you thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to get out of this one?
Well, it's interesting signing the personal guarantee,
Yeah.
right? Because it is such a leap of faith. You really, I'm in this 100%, right?
That's right.
It's interesting with a lot of franchise businesses, and I didn't really think about this when I was getting into time, but I bought the franchise before I had a location to open. And, that's inherently backwards, isn't it? So you talk about two leaps of faith. One is I've spent all this money on a franchise agreement, and then you're assuming you're going to find and again, we're a retail location, so we have to have a brick and mortar facility, and it's got to be the right demographics, right location, all that. And you really just, it's a huge leap. And like I said, I really thought it was backwards, but they didn't see it that way. So anyway, I took the leap. So that's one of them, and really one of the things that concerned me there were a couple of Honest One franchise owners that had spent 2 years looking for location and had not opened up yet. And I'm like, I don't want to be in that position. That is not a good position to be in at all, right? So we were very fortunate. I mean, we identified this location we have in East Cobb really early on. Within a month of signing the franchise agreement, then it took us 6 weeks to negotiate the lease. But that's a different story. Yeah, and there's and I think every small business owner probably goes through this, and back from my corporate days, and I'll thank one of my old bosses for this. And I used to hate it in the corporate world, but we always had to build these financial models.
Yeah.
And we had three, right? You had the base case, what you expect to happen. You had a best case, and you had a worst case. And so I followed that. I did it in my own business. I did 3 models. And it's funny, the one thing about financial models is they're never going to be right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's never going to be accurate, no matter how hard you try. But sales actually beat the best case. I mean, we actually started off much better than I had projected. The expenses were way higher than any of the models. It was a challenge. And you get to this point, and again, I know a lot of you guys out there can relate to this. You get to this point where, 12, 15, 18 months into it, you're not making the level of money and the cash flow that you need. And all of a sudden it becomes this decision, well, I had set a floor that I'm not going to liquidate any of these assets to keep the business going. And we're right there at it. And, it's a really tough decision on how you do it. And then, so you step back and reevaluate everything. Are my projections right? Are my models right? Have I got the right people? Are we doing the right stuff? And have I got a good business plan? And ultimately, I said, we've got a good business plan. This has worked for other people in other locations. We've got a phenomenal location in East Cobb and a great customer base. And really the demographics on where we're at are picture perfect for what Honest One looks for. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be excelling at this. So made a couple minor tweaks, but for the most part, it's like our business plan is solid. We're doing the right stuff. Let's just give it a little bit more time. And sure enough, there was like a light switch that clicked on, and we started taking off. And again, it's going to sort of get to that bottom. Little prayer, a lot of prayer, little fingers crossed, and things worked out. But it was a really tough few months there.
One of my mentors at IBM, one time, I guess he's maybe repairing some of my wounds from maybe doing something wrong. And he said to me, "It's okay to make mistakes. You just can't appear to be drunk and disorderly." But I share that because I'm a hawk on business planning and financial planning. I've done more of those plans than I can possibly imagine, and every single one of them was wrong. That's a bragging point, right? Because it's just a plan. But I really like what you said about you would go back when you were doubting yourself, when your back was against the wall and you were thinking, oh my gosh, am I doing this right? Not that anyone else in this room can relate to that sensation. I have a friend that's been through that, not me, of course, right? But you go back to that plan and say, what was I thinking? Were my initial thoughts valid? Were they solid? Are they still solid? And what I've always come to realize in that exercise is, all plans are built with certain assumptions in place. Certain things, I think this is valid, this is valid, this is valid, this is valid. And then when it doesn't work out, what I found almost every single time is most of those are still valid. I was just wrong on this one. But it's so easy to beat yourself up. Oh, I'm such a loser, how do I remember to breathe in the morning,
And you don't want to turn too many of those levers, right? And just too many dials, because then you don't know what's working, right? So you've got to be very judicious, and if you do make a change, kind of do one at a time or something and see how that's going to work out so you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Exactly, exactly. And I also, as I'm listening to your story, it's one thing if you have a projection and you miss it when you're working for a major corporation. But when you have your own business, you have to go home and explain to your bride, well, that didn't go. I hate that feeling much more than I hated taking a bullet in corporate.
And it's funny too, because I always felt like I was a good steward of the corporate money when I was in corporate America. But it really is a different feeling when it's coming out of your own checking account. And that's tough, and you're writing payroll out of your own checking account and things like that nature. It's a different world.
It gets real.
It does. It gets real.
But as you see, you'll find I'm very passionate about this path in life because once you learn how to get income coming, once you learn how to acquire a client, clients will come and go, but you can acquire more. And it's a very freeing and empowering feeling. Typically, that now as different things change in the economy, in the world or whatever, you're far more vulnerable when you have a corporate position than you might be as an entrepreneur. And even if that bullet comes directly at your business as an entrepreneur and blows it to smithereens, you still have what it took to start over. You still have that base skill and that confidence to go forward. So, I noticed that you're also very involved in the community. Why?
Well, I think it's critical to the success of the business. And, first off, I want to give a shout out to Jonathan Ingram, the fellow East Cobb Rotarian. I'm glad he's here and I hope he continues to come back. But you have to support the community. I mean, we didn't live in East Cobb. So I wanted to make sure that the community of East Cobb understood that we're not here just to take money out of the community. We're here to be a part of the community. And, we've done that in several ways. I've drank the Kool-Aid, I guess, for Rotary. I've been very involved in East Cobb Rotary for 7 years now. Some great people, great organization. But we've supported a lot of the nonprofits and gotten involved. We've done fundraisers on site. We've done donations. We've helped people at different various organizations with donating in-kind services and things like that. But I think you have to show the community that you're a partner, not just a business that's going to operate there.
I found life to be so much more fulfilling with that direction. Again, in corporate, you're so busy getting your task list done, and did I get that done? Did I get that done? Did I get that done? But when you're an entrepreneur, you really get more involved in the community, and it truly is something. You give and it comes back. You give and it comes back, and you give and you give and you give, and it just feels right. But it's funny how this world evolves too, because it's like, be nice to everybody, right? Because today, Henry Molyneux joined us. I used to work with him at IBM. It's like, oh my gosh, I think I was good to him. I think we were nice. we were. But, you get that investment in the community. And to me, it's just much more fulfilling.
It absolutely is. I mean, it's not about being out there to generate more business. I mean, sometimes that's a nice side effect of it. But at the end of the day, it's great to help the people you see in the shop as your customers, and there's a lot of need in East Cobb. A lot of people don't realize that, but there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of need for nonprofits and helping out our fellow citizens. And, it's the right thing to do. And, one of the core values that I learned early on in my business is that, you should do what is right before what is profitable. And if you run the business with that thought in mind, I've always felt like the profits will follow. And we've tried to, and we've run our business with that motto.
That's outstanding. Now, in a couple moments, I want to open up the floor to questions. So if you have questions, please get ready. Even the people on Zoom, in Zoom land, if you have a question, let Lori know, and we'll ask those questions. So as you can see, I'm pretty passionate about the East Cobb Business Association. My perception, I learned years ago in life that people have their game faces, but you really don't know how deeply they're hurting at any one time. And as I think I shared with you, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I look at people and say, where are they on that hierarchy right now? If everything's wonderful and they're at self-actualization, they can be kind and loving and sweet, but if they just lost their job, if they're cold and wet, they don't have shelter, all of a sudden they're in a different state. And so I recognize that exists with everybody. And that's really an opportunity to help the community and lift people up And that's why we're doing some of the programs that we're doing the Business Association this year. But if you were in my position, what do you think the East Cobb Business Association should be doing to help more business owners and the community?
Well, I think you're on the right track with some of the initiatives you've started. And over time, ECBA has done partnerships with some of the nonprofits. And I know we've given financial support to some of the organizations, but I think there's an opportunity to partner with some of the organizations in town, like a Rotary, Kiwanis, Lions Club, things like that, where you could really maybe come back with some type of synergistic effect out of the two organizations working together, and then just continue to support the community like we've been doing. I think from helping out small business owners, I've seen, I know you're going to talk about book club and things like that. I think anything to help improve our business acumen goes a long way, and even the breakouts. Getting together with fellow business owners and talking about some of these issues. And, we were joking around and a little bit, it's like, well, what do you need? Well, we need more money. I need more employees. We need all this, or I need to sell the business and so I can sleep at night. And then that's a joke because I'm not planning on doing that. It's, anything we can do to improve our education and improve our skills collectively, I think is a really good thing.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Butch? Yes, would you please come up and talk?
Can you fix cars?
Can he fix cars?
So John Bevel asked me if I can fix cars, and that might be a plant. I don't know. We hadn't talked about this, but those of you who know me, you've probably heard me say, if you see me working on a car, don't come in the shop. I am not a mechanic, and I don't make any bones about that. I look for people that are smarter than I am, that have different skill sets than I am, and that's who I bring on my staff. In having the East Cobb shop for 8 years, and the one in Johns Creek for almost 4 now, I've put one air filter in a customer's car. Now, I will touch my own car,
That
but
wasn't mine, was
we'll talk, because I was probably put in backwards. But it's just like it's not my skill set.
Right.
So I hire people to do that. And the other thing is, and Kimberly tells me not to say this, but the first book I bought after I bought the franchise was Auto Repair for Dummies. Because it's simple and straightforward. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't learn the business. And I can explain how most systems in the vehicle operate. Now, I couldn't do that in the summer of 2013. And there was a big learning curve and a lot of time spent studying, because I want to make sure. And when we opened the business, I sat at the front desk, and if you guys were coming back in 13 and 14, you would probably dealt with me as a service advisor, because I wanted to learn the business and learn how you learn the sales process and the customer flow through the business. So, they would come up with a sheet that says, you need the flux capacitor replaced. And, so I'm back in the shop saying, okay, show me where the flux capacitor is, how it works, and all that, and that's how I learned. So you have to do that. To run a business, you have to understand how it operates, but you don't want to see me with a wrench under a car. It's not going to be a good thing.
Lori, do we have any questions online? Okay, so we have Andrew.
Oh, you can't see it. Andrew wants to know, how important is professional design in the promotion of your brand and business?
So there was an echo there, so I couldn't understand what you said.
You got it already.
This one's live up here.
He wants to know how important is professional design in growing your business and brand?
That is a phenomenal question from Andrew Wiseman of Providential Signworks. He is a great business partner and a fellow Rotarian. And professional design and image is absolutely important to your business. And he's done a great job with our signage and stuff over the years. And I'm glad he was able to join us today.
That's 2 plants for you. I don't know.
And I didn't even plan them, so they know me way too well. So.
Any other questions? Could you use the microphone, please? Look in the camera if you use it. Is that one? Okay.
Okay, I am not a plant. You didn't speak much about your family, so I'm part of the corporate life, checking the boxes type things.
Mm-hmm.
How is your work-life balance with owning 2 businesses?
Boy, that's a tough question. What did Jack Welch say about work-life balance. Do you remember? He
No.
said there is none. And of course, he's been married in what, 4 times, 5 times? When you, in my corporate job, I was on the road. I had an office. The company was based in New Jersey. I ran our Canadian sales division for a while, had an office in Montreal, worked out of the Montreal office, but I lived here. So, Sunday night, Monday morning, I'm on the airplane and coming home Thursday night, Friday night. There's a lot of medical meetings over the weekends. So I was on the road a lot. I don't know that I'm putting in any less hours or put in less hours than I did then, but I'm sleeping in my own bed at night. And there's a whole lot to be said for that, and not the wear and tear of being a road warrior. What's great is I've got a wonderful partner, and we work together. The business, we do our own bookkeeping. Part of it is we feel like we need to look at, we need to watch the financials. So we look at every invoice that comes in from a part supplier. We look at every customer invoice that goes out, and she and I are doing that and making sure that everything's all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. But it's a lot of work, and opening a second store, my life changed dramatically because I went from being the face of Honest One in East Cobb and able to be here every day, and a lot of days, if not most days, it was open and closed 6 days a week. To where I'm back into a management role, and I have to have a great staff that can manage both businesses, and they know what I want them to do and make the right decisions when I'm not there. And I'm very fortunate that I've got a team at both locations that can do that. So I'm able to bounce between the two, but still at the end of the day, it's owning your own business, and this, it's all consuming. I mean, you have to, you're all in.
Yeah, and hopefully it's all consuming in a good way, because sometimes it's all consuming in a bad way.
Right.
That's not fun.
Right.
Any other questions from the audience? Yes. Oh, Roseanne.
No, whoever that was, that's great.
All right, come on up again. Thank you.
Ramona.
Ramona.
It is. I'm going to take that opportunity. Much like you, we're a franchise, and we're currently in an expansion mode, and you've been there, done that. So as someone who's been there, done that, what would be the top 2 pieces of advice that you would give to us in that expansion mode that really made the difference for you to be successful?
Great question. You guys have an advertising business, and so you don't necessarily need a brick and mortar location like I had to have for our second location. And for our business, demographics are key, but it is a lot for yours as well, because you've got to find the right advertisers to go into to money pages. So you need to make sure that the area that you're expanding into has got the customer base to support what you guys want to do first and foremost. And then I tell you, as all of us as entrepreneurs, you have to be willing to take a risk. And if you see a business opportunity, don't shy away from it, but also do your due diligence.
Yeah, calculated risk.
Yeah, calculated risk are the best. Not the knuckle type of the face knuckle type of risk. Those aren't the ones you want to take. But yeah, that'd be my advice to you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, that's the time we have for Butch.
Hey, Brian, we got one more question now from Marie.
All right, Marie.
All right, Marie, if you could take yourself off the silent top there, and you can speak right up.
Well, I was curious about how your expectations from customers might have changed, or employees, since you first began.
What a great question. I don't know if you guys would hear what she said, but how's my expectations of customers, employees changed kind of over time and since we've opened? First off, our customer base has been great. And the reason I went into this business and chose this particular business was because I wanted to have that customer interaction. I wanted to be the sales and marketing guy. I want to be the face of the business. And I felt like that if I can impart to our customers that we're authentic, we really mean what we're going to say, that we could be successful. And I felt like we've done that. And by and large, our customers have been great. It's occasionally you run into somebody, and we're in a tough business because we give people bad news all the time. People don't want to hear that something's not working. And like you were talking about Maslow's hierarchy, you don't know what's going on in their life. And so, sometimes people will react in ways you don't really expect them to. And that's something that we've had to work in. And, I coach the staff on that. It's like, look, just don't take it personal if somebody reacts that way. But, we just, as long as we're doing the right thing, we're making good, honest recommendations on what needs to be done, and we're not making stuff up. My staff knows that, I have a zero tolerance policy for somebody making stuff up. And that's bad in our industry, by the way. That will be successful, but you really have got to allow people to process, and that's been probably a little bit of a learning curve. I came out of the pharmaceutical industry where everybody's dying to get into pharmaceutical sales, or was trying to for a long time, and it was incredibly competitive for us to hire people. And we're hiring people with advanced degrees and different background than what I've typically recruited for in this business. And, we drug test and we do background screening and all that stuff. And, it's a different world. So, that's been a challenge because, and then there's just not as many people going into the trades as there were. So, we find talent, and my expectation for employees, it's pretty high, and it's tough to find people that meet our expectation, but you need to, the old adage was slow to hire and quick to fire. It's kind of tough to do that, with the labor shortage.
I understand. We do need to wrap up. So Butch, let's give Butch a round of applause here.